Hi everyone. Sorry I'm a little late. Just getting out of choir practice, and people generally like to hang around for a bit afterward and chat for a while. And so tonight, then a couple folks stayed for an exceptionally long time. So thank you for your patience. And it has been such a quick week. I've been in the process of getting ready for my trip to Tucson. So it is nice to be with you all. And wow, welcome, Tavian and Christy and Hillary. Great to have you with us. And feel free, if you have comments or questions throughout, to jump in and share them. That would be terrific. So I wanted to talk a little tonight about the experience of feeling isolated because it's just such an incredibly common experience. And so especially for folks in our community, since numerically there aren't that many of us, and we are generally surrounded by folks who are living from a whole different paradigm, it can be easy to feel isolated. And I know that many of us in this group, in fact, live in geographical areas where, we may be the only one of our kind for miles and miles. And I know that others find ourselves in queer or trans communities, but still may not feel like we belong for various reasons. And so, when marginalized peoples come together, then, we always imagine that it's going to be this wonderful homecoming where we can finally feel safe and accepted as we are. That sense of home and family and belonging that many of us, spend our lives searching for. But unfortunately, the reality of those reunions don't usually live up to our fantasies. And so, this is in part because marginalized peoples carry a lot of traumas from our experiences in mainstream culture. And so we tend to bring those unhealed traumas to our interactions with one another. And this can create a lot of pain, unfortunately. And so, maybe this is how you are feeling. I'm the only one that seems to get it. And get it can really mean a whole variety of things in this particular contemporary landscape that we are living in. Maybe you feel like I'm the only one like me in this town, in this group, in this family, in this workplace, in this organization. Maybe you feel like I spoke my truth and now everyone keeps their distance. I know I've certainly had various experiences where, after speaking up and sharing about my experience, that I, kind of felt like I had the plague afterward. People would just, put their head down when I walked in the room or walk out of the room because it made people feel uncomfortable. Maybe you're feeling like, I thought this was my community, but instead it's just another space where I don't feel welcomed or safe to be myself. And maybe you feel like, nobody wants to put much energy into me. People just don't invest in one another anymore. Or maybe you feel like, I'm walking around in this bubble and it keeps me safe, but it's really lonely in there. And, I see this in my students, especially the way that everyone moves about on campus in their own isolated world, glued to their phones and with their headphones in. And, they look happy on the outside. But I know from reading their free writes and their papers that they are actually dying inside. They are really, really terrified of not being met. And they are actually equally terrified of connecting. And so they're kind of caught in, a lot of conflicted feelings about what they want. And I don't think that this is particular to just my students, because I really see American culture just has so many mixed feelings about connection and about isolation, similar to the mixed feelings that we have about being seen and heard. And so, we all want to be seen and heard and recognized. And also, we struggle with the vulnerability of letting go of our invisibility that is required in order to be seen and heard. I did an exercise in my choir tonight. For every rehearsal, then we do a breathing practice. And so for this breathing practice, then I had folks pair up and they shared a breath together. And so it's a very simple exercise. All people do is stand across from each other, so they're making eye contact, and they simply breathe together. And so you connect with one another and feel into one another, and then you breathe together as a unit. And so, this is really important in a choir because, you do actually want to be breathing together because you want to be creating a sound together. You want to be deeply listening to one another and be singing at the same time so that you are singing in a cohesive manner. And it was just really interesting to see, the degree of struggle that people were having with this. And, many of the people have been in the choir for a number of years and know each other. We've had a lot of very intimate experiences together. And yet just standing across from one another, making eye contact and breathing together for, 5 breaths was really, really challenging for a lot of people and really, really vulnerable for a lot of people. And so I think that is really telling about where we are at as a culture. There's ways that, we are all desperate in our loneliness and in our disconnection. And yet we are so attached to our independence and our space and our privacy, and we feel so threatened when those are compromised. And so this really does throw up a lot of roadblocks to our ability to be able to find meaningful connection, the meaningful connection that we really need, really to survive, especially to be able to have a happy and thriving life. And so, if you feel like you have tried and tried to find ways to connect with people and it's still not working or feeling satisfying to you, then reach out and we can work together to find a solution to that. And so one tip that I will just share, and then I'll welcome the rest of the folks because there's a lot more folks here tonight. It's great. So one tip that's great to keep in mind, if you find yourself comparing how much you are putting out versus how much you are receiving back, then I encourage you instead to compare how much you are putting out versus how much that you are giving to yourself. And so our external reality really is a reflection of our inner landscape. And so oftentimes it is the daring to invest in ourselves and to give ourselves the care and the love and the acceptance and the attention that we so crave from others, that oftentimes can just turn everything around for us in really surprising ways. So welcome also to Naomi and to Jess and to Natalie and to Jai. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Apologies for that. If you have any comments or questions, this would be a terrific time to chime in if there's anything that you want to share. I really like having the dialogue in this group, and folks have been so generous with sharing their stories and giving one another very loving and welcoming feedback. It's just been so great to see. And so we have had a couple of the Facebook Lives where folks have asked questions and shared things, and so that always makes it more interesting. So my next video with you all will be on the road because I am leaving for Tucson on Thursday. And I decided instead of just cramming it in the long list of things that I was busy doing, that I would actually make it into a kind of self-care road trip adventure. And so I kind of rearranged my plans a little bit to be able to spend a little more time on the road. I get to go through New Mexico, which I'm really excited about. It was on my heart's desire list for 2018 to take a road trip to New Mexico, and that didn't happen. And so I'm very thrilled now that I get the opportunity to make the most of that and to really shift my thinking instead of having my life run me, to remember that I'm creating this existence and I can have it the way that I want it. And so give myself a little space to breathe and to have a little room for something new and exciting to happen. So I'm looking forward to having time on the road to have a little integration and time with myself. And I will be connecting with you all again from the Leadership Symposium, which I feel also excited about. My chorus is in the process of planning a second choir tour to head out to Portland to collaborate with a trans chorus out in Portland. And so the director of that is also going to be at the symposium, so we'll have a chance to do some planning there, which I'm excited about. And hey, thanks for the comment. That's excellent. So hope that you have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to checking in with you again soon.